as far as the recipe development, that was a lot of just formulating in my kitchen what flavor profiles I thought went really well together, and then always ensuring that we were using super fresh ingredients. So with our lemon garlic olives, for instance, we use a freshly squeezed lemon juice, and I think that freshness and that quality really comes across in the product today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. This is Grace, and I'm back with another founder feature. Today, I'm talking to Nikki Seaman, the founder of Freestyle Snacks. Freestyle Snacks makes high-quality, delicious, marinated olives from Greece with convenient liquid-free packaging. Nikki and I talk all about what it's like to reimagine a long-standing category, how she's approaching multi-channel distribution, and how she got her product into the hands of one very famous reality TV star with over 1 million followers. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, let me know what you think. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Nikki Seaman, the founder of Freestyle Snacks. So welcome to the show, Nikki.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Grace.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself and Freestyle Snacks to our listeners.
Sure. Yeah, so I am the founder and CEO of Freestyle Snacks. We are a premium olive snack that's reimagining olives as we know them by bringing together really high-quality, fresh, and delicious olives from Greece with convenient and liquid-free packaging.
Yes, and I have tried Freestyle Snacks olives, and they are so good. I've had them as just a snack, but I've also put them out on like a charcuterie board when I was like hosting friends, and I was like, what should I add to this board? And I just put them out, and of course they were all eaten very quickly. And they're really good and marinated in like a bunch of different flavors, which I appreciated as well, because I've also in the past when hosting like marinated my own olives in like some flavor profile, and you guys do all that work for you.
Exactly. It's time saver.
So it's great. I think my favorite was the spicy one.
Yeah, everyone has their unique favorites.
Of course. So I'd love to hear a little bit about why you decided to start Freestyle Snacks and where you were coming from before starting this brand.
Yeah, so everyone's first question is always why olives? It's kind of a more random category to tackle, but I really like that olives aren't sexy, right? There's so much opportunity to really give this trusty but dusty category a makeover. And the way that I kind of had this light bulb moment where I thought of Freestyle Snacks was during the pandemic. At the time, I was working at Wisps, the cheese crisp company, leading special projects there. So kind of had a CPG boot camp, which was extremely helpful in understanding how to commercialize a product. And, with the pandemic, a lot of different things happened. And one very small outcome was buffets and olive bars in grocery stores shutting down. And so I was very spoiled. I would get my fancy olive fix from the olive aisle each week, trying different flavors all the time. Those freshly marinated olives were my afternoon or evening snack. And so when that no longer existed, I had to turn to the traditional olive aisle. And that's really where I saw the white space opportunity, because none of the existing brands on shelf were really jumping out at me. And then when I did try a bunch of different products at home, they missed the mark in a few ways. So first off, from a taste perspective, they were a bit bland and mushy and didn't really deliver on that restaurant quality level of olives that I knew, olives could carry as a flavor profile. And then on top of that, I found the olives very inconvenient to eat. So I was, eating the olives over my sink, losing olives down the drain along the way. I couldn't bring the olives to my desk. I had spilled all over my desk, one too many times. And so I kind of thought to myself, why is such a healthy, delicious, savory, salty snack so difficult to enjoy? And so I kind of set out from that moment on to create an easier and more enjoyable way to eat olives.
Absolutely. And it's so true. Like, I have such vivid, like when you say trying to eat olives over the sink, I'm like, I immediately see myself with like a fork trying to like stab an olive out of the olive jar just to eat like 2 olives and then making a mess and, what a disaster. But I will disagree with one point, which I think olives are sexy. You think about a martini, a blue cheese stuffed olive. That's kind of sexy.
Olives are having a moment right now
Definitely.
as well. I think with different trends of tin fish, martinis, like you mentioned, lots of celebrities are very into the dirty martini. So it's been fun to see that trend kind of increase over time.
Yeah, you kind of came in right at the right time, and people like there's lots of clothing with olives on them now and different like little cute things like that. But another question I had was also just thinking about the name Freestyle Snacks, and I'm curious about, how you came up with that name and also the specific positioning around olives as a snack, right? Because I feel like I haven't seen an olive brand on a shelf position themselves as a snack before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all founders can relate that coming up with a name is often a very difficult part of the process. And actually, of course, I had the idea before I really nailed down what the brand name would be. And I even started working on the packaging design before the name was finalized. But in the end, I really loved Freestyle Snacks because I thought it had a few different meanings that were very relatable. So first off, freestyle. As an olive lover, now you can eat and enjoy your olives anytime and anywhere. And so you can kind of freestyle with your olives wherever you'd like to, whether it's, in the airport or on a trip or, on a charcuterie board. And then I also like the name because it's how the olives feel. They're no longer trapped in the jars underneath the brine. They can now move about the pouch freely and bounce around. And so I kind of like that play on Freestyle Snacks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so fun. So it sounds like you were kind of building the plane as you were flying it, as you were getting this all together, building the packaging as you were still figuring out the name. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you were developing Freestyle Snacks in those early stages of, both figuring out the flavors and the packaging and the name all at once.
Yeah, there were a lot of, parallel path work streams that I was working towards at the same time. And so one of the first things I did, though, was work on the packaging design. From my experience at Wisps, I just knew how critical packaging design was. I think you have 5 seconds on a shelf to grab a consumer's attention. And so I wanted to make it count. Since I wasn't planning to go the traditional farmer's market path and I wanted to go straight to retail, that's why I focused so heavily on the packaging design up front. And actually, almost 3 years into the business, we have not made any packaging changes besides, some really minor updates. So very happy I invested early on that front. And then the other things I was working on at that time was, of course, finding a co-packer. I had this great idea. Startup CPG, of course, has great resources on all of the co-packers available, but all of the olive and pickle co-packers I was calling, they were packing olives in jars. They were not packing it in pouches, and they had been doing that for decades, and they weren't really looking to, invest in new machinery for this brand new company that has no sales data. So got a lot of no's. And then for the companies that do have machinery that we needed for our product, they didn't want to put olives on that machinery, right? Because they're used to producing dry snacks like chips or popcorn on it. So it was a lot of no's, actually over 200 no's and rejections from co-packers, until finally one kind of was really excited about the idea. He was a traditional olive packer, but wanted to kind of start small and figure out how we can, bring this product to life. And so got very lucky on that front. Actually, that was one of the co-packers who didn't email me until months later because my message had gotten sent to his spam inbox, and he somehow miraculously dug it up. And so I feel like that was very serendipitous. And then as far as the recipe development, that was a lot of just formulating in my kitchen what flavor profiles I thought went really well together. And then always ensuring that we were using super fresh ingredients. So with our lemon garlic olives, for instance, we use a freshly squeezed lemon juice. And I think that freshness and that quality really comes across in the product today.
It absolutely does. You can really, they don't taste like jarred olives at all. They really taste fresh, and like you just marinated this at home, which is definitely a challenge when you're coming up with something that can be mass produced in that way. And so after you finally found a co-packer and had all the recipes down, it sounds like you wanted to go straight into retail. And so how did you sort of begin to approach getting into retail and like getting the product to customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my background before Wisps was actually in management consulting. And, everything we did there was very data driven. And so I tried to take the same approach with Freestyle Snacks. And I initially launched the product on our website just to get an initial feel of, is this a product people actually want? And purely through word of mouth, friends of friends, we, sold over $10,000 worth of product in that first launch day. And, from there I knew, okay, this is a product people actually are excited about and has a lot of potential. And that kind of gave me the confidence to go out and push it out to the market further. And so from there, we launched on Amazon, which is still a really incredible channel for us today. And then I just went door to door in Atlanta, which is where I'm based, and tried to get the product in wherever I thought it could be a fit. Olives are very versatile, so I kind of took that to my advantage and, tried to get Freestyle Snacks not only into local grocery markets, but, local liquor stores and local gyms and workout studios, just kind of playing the gamut, juice shops to see where Freestyle Snacks would actually perform. And then I would go into these locations on a weekly basis, count how many units on the shelf have sold within the time frame, and kind of determine which channels would be best for us to keep, heavily pursuing. And then I use that local sales data to go and pursue some regional accounts like Central Market in Texas or Erewhon in LA. And then when we continue to excel and do well in the regional locations, that really opened up the door for us to go national and launch with a partner like Whole Foods.
We'll be right back.
Hey folks, are you ready to boost your e-commerce sales and profitability? When I ran a brand, the hardest pill to swallow was money wasted on a bad performance marketing strategy. Meet the team from Pennick Digital Marketing. They are strategists, media planners, and SEO experts who can't stand seeing emerging brands struggle with inefficient marketing spend. They create tailored solutions for brands generating over $25,000 in monthly e-commerce revenue to help them achieve profitable growth. But wait, there's more. Pennick is offering qualifying startup CPG brands a special deal. It's either $15,000 free in ad spend or a full quarter of SEO services. To see if you qualify, head over to pennick.co/startupcpg. That's PENNOCK.co/startupcpg.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah, it's so you are such a consultant. I love it. Like thinking of all the data and really getting it together in that way. But it's great advice too to like start where you are, but try a bunch of different locations where you are so that you can really see on a very like weekly basis, as you said, what's working and what's not before you go to a larger scale where you can't necessarily have that same in-person presence. I'd love to hear a little bit about what the channels are now that you're focusing on. As I said before we started recording, I noticed that you're in a couple different locations near me, including Whole Foods, but also including the Philadelphia airport and the Four Seasons food market. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your approach now that you've gained a little bit more data about what is working for Freestyle Snacks.
Yeah, so the grocery channel is still really excellent for us, and we have so much ground to still cover. And so really excited as we look to 2025 and years ahead to keep expanding within the grocery channel. But like you mentioned, travel and hospitality, it's a whole nother beast, but it's a really exciting channel for us. And we've seen a lot of success in airports. And then we actually just launched our products in Delta snack boxes this month. So kind of further speaking to what a delicious, healthy but salty snack that's perfect for those, long travel days to fuel you through. And then I would say those are kind of the top two channels that we're focused on right now. But we've also seen success in the corporate channel. So being kind of a corporate kitchen snack, working with partners like American Express to fuel employees throughout the day. And then a channel that's super interesting that, can warrant even further discussion is TikTok. And that's something that we just launched in the last month. And that has a lot of potential to grow. And I'm really excited to see where we can take it.
Yeah, so you're so right that olives are such a versatile food that can be eaten in so many different contexts. And I love that you guys are approaching different channels. And, we were talking before we started recording about here in Philly, where I'm at. You're at my local Whole Foods, but you're also at the Philadelphia airport. You're also at the Four Seasons in Philly. So I'd love to hear a little bit about those channels that you found that have really worked for you guys since you first started. And now you have, a couple years of data to really hone in on your approach.
Yeah, so the grocery channel is definitely still the biggest for us right now, and we still have a ton of ground to cover. So really excited to keep, partnering with our existing retailers, increasing velocities there, but then also expanding to new points of distribution and new retail partnerships. But on top of that, like you said, one of the channels that really excites me is travel and hospitality. So we partner with OTG, and we're in Chibo Express stores, which is probably where you saw us in the Philly airport. And that's been huge for us. And then we actually just launched on Delta flights this month in their snack boxes. So just further kind of speaking to Freestyle Snacks being a really great salty, savory, but healthy snack to fuel travel days. And then, we also play in some other fun channels like the liquor channel, partnering with Total Wine and Binny's. And then a channel that's very recently emerged for us is TikTok. And I'm talking in the last month or so. And so I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to continue digging into TikTok as they're also figuring out how to grow the TikTok shop. So excited to see, where we continue to push into in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And your mention of TikTok reminds me of another question I had, which is like how you are working with social media and like social media influencers. And also another story that I had told Nikki right before we started recording, which was that I was reminded of Freestyle Snacks when I saw Paige DeSorbo, who is a reality TV star for those who, don't watch Bravo like I do. But she wrote a list of like her favorite things for the strategist. And I saw she listed Freestyle Snacks. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about like how you got Freestyle Snacks into her hands. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, the PR is working. And you were like, ah. So I'd love for you to share that story.
Yeah, it's a fun story. So, I'm also an avid Bravo watcher. Paige DeSorbo is a star of Summer House. And one of my best friends from high school, had mentioned to me that Paige lived in her building in Manhattan. And so immediately I was like, we need to get Freestyle Snacks in her hands. And so I basically, sent an influencer package to my friend's apartment building, noting what floor she thought Paige DeSorbo lived on, and, sent the product to her. And I send tons of influencer packages out all the time, and most of the time, they're not going to post. But Paige, I knew, was an olive lover, and she just fell in love with the product. And from there, was purchasing on her own, and mentions us all the time. She wore the pair of olive socks we sent to her on the show as well. And so it's just been really fun to see kind of the natural progression of, shooting your shot, turning into something really awesome, and, the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a sweet story, but also just a testament of like finding the right people to sort of send your product to, not just sending it to like any famous person or any influencer that you think like might post about you, but finding someone you're like, okay, I know she loves olives. I happen to know where she lives. But what has been your approach in terms of working with like other sort of potential like partnerships with like influencers or anyone on social media, if you have an approach to that at all, because maybe you're not doing it at all?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mention, you have to partner with the right types of influencers. So Paige is an amazing example because she has such a captivated audience who whatever she says, they're like, yes, I totally need to try that. And so whenever she's posted about Freestyle Snacks, we've seen incredible conversion from her. I would say we do a bunch of other influencer activations that are targeted around big moments for our brand, like when we launched into Whole Foods or launched into Delta snack boxes. We've done kind of different gifting opportunities there. But it really does depend on the influencer and how they connect with their audience and engage them. And that's something that's just a little bit difficult to gauge probably without, an influencer marketing agency. So, sometimes it works and you just kind of do it for the ones that are going to hit.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes it doesn't work and you just have to be okay with that as well, trying to see what sticks. And I'm curious about other marketing approaches you've taken, or if you've spent any money on marketing, or if you have still continued to mostly rely on word of mouth, or what your approach has been to marketing Freestyle Snacks.
Yeah, so before starting Freestyle Snacks, I had dozens and dozens of conversations with other CPG founders before, a podcast like this existed. And obviously connecting with them was extremely helpful, and marketing was one of the things I always asked about. And for founders that have been in this for a while, they consistently said, within the four walls of a grocery store is where you want to do as much of your marketing as possible. So I kind of go by the framework of sampling, promotions, and placement as, the three pillars of marketing to focus on. And then everything else like influencer marketing, social media, email marketing is more kind of ancillary, more top of funnel awareness for me. So with sampling, of course, that's doing demos, programs like Social Nature and Aisle. With promotions, it's, running those TPRs. And then with placement, this has actually been the most effective for our brand, is just getting secondary displays. So typically, we are merchandised in the olive aisle. And so when we can kind of come out of the olive aisle and show up maybe on top of the salad bar or near specialty cheeses, maybe we're paired with wine or sandwiches, that's where we see an incredible velocity uplift. And that's probably been, the most successful marketing that we've done to date.
We'll be right back. Hola, amigos. About 4 years ago, I got a message from a designer in Colombia who said she'd like to work with Startup CPG to build her reputation in the US. I couldn't believe how affordable her pricing was, and the quality looked top-notch. I started work with them for Startup CPG, and then a bunch of my other CPG projects as well. Fast forward to today, they are the most beloved agency in our Startup CPG community. They've got dozens of happy customers like Prickly and so many more. I recommend them to absolutely anybody who will listen, because the combo of top-notch quality and very reasonable pricing is exactly what you want as a startup brand. You can hire them for branding, packaging, your website, or they actually have an awesome startup package that will do all three. If you want to learn more, email them at startupcpg@wagondesignstudio.com or check the show notes. You could also post on our Slack for feedback and just be overwhelmed by how many people want to sing their praises. Gracias, Wagon! And now, back to the show.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious if you have any advice for founders trying to work with retailers to have that kind of like bring us out of our X aisle and put us on top of the olive bar, like you were saying, or in another location. Do you have any advice for like how to have those conversations? Because sometimes I feel like founders feel a little bit nervous to like ask for something like that with a retail partner. But yeah, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, I try and live by this. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So, you just have to put it out there and, do it in a respectful way, of course. And I think, again, going back to data, if you can bring any data to that conversation, that's just going to help your case. So with Whole Foods, for instance, we did a program in Florida working with a merchandising group called Front Page Retail, and they helped us to secure secondary displays on top of the salad bar. We saw incredible results from that, and then got to bring that to the Whole Foods team. And then, that kind of opened the doors for us to explore a shipper program with them. So I would say definitely need to ask the questions, and then any supporting data to make your case and tell your story is going to be helpful.
Yeah, That's great advice. And data is God, as it turns out, again and again. We continue to discover that. But another question I always love to ask founders, and this is kind of a bigger question, but really, what has been one of the hardest parts about founding Freestyle Snacks, and how have you worked to overcome it, or how are you continuing to overcome it?
Yeah, I think there's, lots of challenges. I once listened to a podcast, and I think it was the founder of Shake Shack said, business is just one big problem. So there's always going to be challenges, and part of the excitement is coming to work every day and figuring out how to solve those challenges. So, I won't talk about like some of those actual day-to-day business challenges, but I think for me, one of the hardest things starting up was kind of twofold. One, as a solo founder, I just found it very lonely, especially in the earlier days. And so that's when I looked to connect with other founders, kind of commiserate in some ways, and just share learnings and tips and tricks. And I feel like that really energized me and fueled me to keep going. So I think, that was definitely one big challenge. And then also coming more from a consulting background, moving into entrepreneurship, there is no structure. And so it's figuring out how to effectively structure your days, make sure things keep pushing along. And, you're spread so thin across so many facets of the business, from sales and marketing to operations, making sure, your product is actually getting produced, and the finance side of things. So really ruthlessly prioritizing and figuring out how to best structure your strategy, all the way down to your day-to-day plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard so many founders speak to how hard it is to be a solo founder, and how nice it is, or from people who have a co-founder, how nice it is to have someone, like you said, to commiserate with. And even in that element of like structuring your days, having a co-founder can help you be like, okay, you log off now and I'll take this part of the day, or, however people do it. But I think a lot of people will probably resonate with those challenges, and also the fact that there is always one big challenge, as you said. So this episode will air in early January 2025. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what your plans are for Freestyle Snacks in 2025, which is crazy to say that it's so close, and when you're all hearing this, it will be 2025. But yeah, what are some of your plans for Freestyle Snacks and some of your goals for this year?
Yeah, so we held, we have a very lean team, but got to hold kind of a strategy workshop in August of this year for 2025 planning. And that was really fun and energizing for the team to just, all figure out with our respective areas where we want to push. And so in 2025, some of the bigger things we have on the roadmap, one is innovation. We might be dipping our toes out of the category a little bit, hence the broader name of Freestyle Snacks. So excited to see, how agile we can be in commercializing some new items quickly. I think that's really big. And then also, as I was mentioning before, continuing to push in the grocery channel, so expanding points of distribution while also really nurturing and prioritizing our existing amazing accounts. So figuring out, what are those secondary display opportunities, which promotions are working best, and how can we do more of them. So a lot of learning and then implementing with existing customers. And then we have pretty ambitious growth goals as well, especially as we think about our online channels. Like I was mentioning with TikTok, this is a business that we didn't even have 2 months ago. And now, it's becoming a more significant part of our e-com channel. And so figuring out how to just optimize there and really grow those channels in an efficient way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do see the TikTok shop. I feel like when I'm on my For You page now, it's like every other video is like TikTok shop, TikTok shop. I'm like, oh, okay, they're really pushing this. So I'm excited for you guys to grow that for Freestyle Snacks as well. But my last question is another question I always like to ask founders, which is if you were, day one of Freestyle Snacks, doing it all over again, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd been told or wish you'd known before you started this whole journey?
There's a lot of things I can say here, so I'm just trying to pick one of my favorites. I think one thing that I would say is you really need to have grit, which is passion and perseverance. So make sure, this is a product that you love and really believe in, because that's the thing that's really going to carry you through to wake up every day and work on the business. And then having the perseverance to, sift through all of the rejections, which there were many, many, many rejections, not only across the co-packers, but retailers. But, a no is not a not ever. It's just a not right now. And so you just have to keep pushing. And when the timing is right for the brand, everything will kind of fall into place. So just have to keep going and not give up.
Absolutely. Yeah, you might get 200 rejections from co-packers, but then a few years later, you might be growing and thriving and all of the above. So
exactly.
I love that advice. My last question is, where can people learn more about Freestyle Snacks and purchase Freestyle Snacks and follow along on your journey?
Yeah, our website is freestylesnacking.com. That's snacking with an ing. And then can follow us on Instagram also at Freestyle Snacking. On TikTok, we are Freestyle Snacks. And then to purchase, you can find us across the country at Whole Foods. And then we're also available on Amazon, as well as our website, which has our store locator on there for any, great independents that might be close to you.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Nikki. It was such a pleasure to learn more about Freestyle Snacks and your delicious olives. And I can't wait to see what you guys do in 2025.
Thank you so much, Grace. Any, great independents that might be close to you.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Nikki. It was such a pleasure to learn more about Freestyle Snacks and your delicious olives. And I can't wait to see what you guys do in 2025.
Thank you so much, Grace.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would help us out so much if you left a 5-star review on ratethispodcast.com/startupcpg. I am Grace Kennedy, the host of the Founder Feature Series, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Slack. I'm always on the hunt for new and exciting brands to feature. And if you're a potential sponsor who would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And finally, as a reminder for anyone listening, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join our community on Slack. You can sign up via our website, startupcpg.com.